When I was a kid, I was a little bit different. Sure, my pants were always about 3 inches too short, and my favorite movie was The Mask with Jim Carrey. But that was just bad genetics. No, there's one thing that made me a true outsider. I loved Sonic. Not as much as some people, but he was my absolute favorite. See? Yeah, I was also the Mask one year. But whenever kids would argue on the playground about which video game character was best, I always insisted that the blue blur is best. And today, I'm gonna prove just how deadly he is in real life. But what are we trying to do here? Simple. Prove just how powerful Sonic is by building a real-world, 2-scale replica of him using a bunch of measurements from the game and then fling it at stuff. The way I see it, there's only one place to start. Spinning. You see what I was going for. Spinning. We know that Sonic in his normal state, not very strong. In fact, in most games, he looks a little different. But if anything so much as touches you and you have no rings, you die. And it's no surprise, by all accounts, Sonic is just a little guy. But as previously mentioned, if you had some rotational momentum, then things change. Fast. Follow me. This, right here, is the real reason he's a real killer. Spinning. And I have proof. Okay, I have another way. And that is by going a little bigger, turning the spin dash into a reality. That way, there's no question on how deadly Sonic is because all dissenting opinions will be cut in half. Hopefully. But before we even think about the build of it all, we have to answer some important questions. And first up is measurements. Now, to build a replica of Sonic, we need to know just how big of a boy he is. And I insist on doing my own measurements for this kind of thing because I have been burned on the internet way too many times before on this. But there's two problems with that. One, officially measuring Sonic in any capacity puts me in a very exclusive club of the strangest people on Earth.
Cream the Rabbit's mother, Vanilla. She's attractive and is the size of an average human mother. What really surprises me about her...
And even more problematic, there are two Sonics? There are two Sonics. One, which we all know and love, which I endearingly call Classic Sonic, and one that sprung up a little later in life, which I less endearingly call Modern Sonic. This guy stinks! Yeah, he does suck. He's just the same as regular Sonic, but longer. And in addition to being unsettling, he also throws an unnecessary ripple in our how tall is Sonic question, which I don't even know when this happened. Like, at some point he experimented with scarves, kissed a human woman, and now he's man-sized, which I hate, but that's mostly because of jealousy. The good news is, we don't even have to measure these guys, because their heights are well documented by strange broken people on the internet. And even luckier than that, none of that matters because packaging. We're talking about his spin dash, so we're only really dealing with Sonic in his spinning form. So that means we only care about how tall he is when he's curled up into a little ball. And him in a ball is actually just the same size as the biggest part of his body. His head. It's his head. In the games, the cartoons, the movie, his spin dash is actually just the same size as his sprite's head. And after analyzing frame by frame and having knowledge of how big his character model is comparatively, which is 3 foot 3 inches tall, I've calculated how big our Sonic spinner needs to be. And it is 30 inches. Now that we have the size of our build, we have to address question 2. How fast does Sonic actually go in game? And that's because whatever we build to approximate Sonic has to go the same speed. Well, after analyzing about half a dozen classic Sonic games, I basically boiled it down to about 22 miles per hour, which sounds slow, because it is slow. Hell, I can almost run that fast. How fast is that?
15 miles an hour.
God damn! Now to measure, I simply took Sonic, spun him up, and then let him rip at the beginning of the map. I then took that footage and placed some measuring Sonics, who we know from our Sonic research weirdos are 3 foot 3 inches in world across the ground that he covered. I then took that number and divided it by the amount of time, or since this is video, frames it took him to do it by. After that, I sat back and really thought about what I'm doing with my life. And then I took a nap, then I ate an ice cream, then I Google searched how old you can be and still go back to college, then I had another ice cream, then I looked at some other stuff, and then I wrote all this stuff on the chalkboard. See? And as it says right here, next to some 7th grade math, 22.3 miles an hour, which I'm gonna round to 30 because, well, we just know he's faster than that, right? Like, imagine basing your whole identity around speed and getting passed by this. Sad. So to build our life-size Sonic, we need something big, round, durable, pointy, that can harness the power of spin to become deadly. And Sean Hannity was busy.
Cut it out.
Okay, well, I have the first part, and that is a saw blade. It's kind of already shaped like Sonic in a spin dash, made of metal, and can easily roll on the ground at high speed. If we just kind of blow up its proportions until it's 30 inches tall, we've got half the work done. We just spin it up in place like Sonic, place it on the ground, and allow it to propel itself forward. But we have a much bigger problem. How do we get a giant, sharp, 100-pound saw blade going basically the speed of a car? Well, that's actually pretty easy. A car! And honestly, it wasn't that easy. Yeah, we made the giant saw blade. And honestly, as far as these things go, not even that hard. We just plugged our CAD file into a ginormous water jet, and then 2.5 hours later, we have a 2.5 foot tall, 1 inch thick, 100-pound saw blade that's vaguely reminiscent of Sonic the Hedgehog. Kinda. I even painted it blue. Cute. But now that we have this done, let's get to the actual hard part. The car. How do we harness the power of the car's engine without destroying it in the process? Basically, we need to use the power of the drivetrain to spin the wheel up and then safely eject it off the car and roll into our target on the ground. Well, get your sleeping caps ready because it's about to get a little boring. Hello. Now, to keep the build simple, we'll treat it just like a tire, but way more dangerous. First step, get a front-wheel drive car, jack it up, and remove one of the front wheels. Kind of like this. And then we attach a very special hub that bolts onto the axle in its place. Basically, this has a threading on it that allows us to screw the saw blade on, and more importantly, when it's time to launch, very quickly screw it off. All we have to do is accelerate. Pretty cool, right? Which will spin the wheel over 600 RPM. Then all we gotta do is get it off at that speed, which is easy because the blade is threaded so that loosening the wheel is forward and tightening it is backwards. And yes, the wheel spins forwards when we accelerate, but it's not unscrewing itself here because the car's axle is spinning at the same speed. If we were to, say, stop the axle quickly with the car's brakes, then the blade will continue to spin forward while the hub stays locked in place, effectively unscrewing itself super quickly and hopefully sending it into our targets. And I think I speak for everyone when I say, what a snooze fest. If I wanted to learn something, I would have stayed on a way more wholesome website. Where's the action? Where's the danger? Where's the excitement? Well, I'm compassionate to that, and if it makes you feel any better, nobody's driving the car.
Well, how do you stop this thing?
See ya! Alex! But unfortunately, this is more for safety than spectacle. We're gonna be spinning a 200-pound, 2-foot-tall saw blade at 600 RPM, like 1 foot away from the driver's footwell. So as safe as Hyundai made this car for side impacts, which is not vary. We've made a remote-controlled gas and brake pedal so that when we do need to slam on the brake and send the blade flying at 30 miles an hour, we're very, very, very far away. Which means, for once in my life, I've actually thought about the health and safety of everyone around me, making this an almost risk-free build. Except there is one little snag. This is not my car. So, this build was originally based around my 2013 Hyundai Veloster Turbo. What a car. All the measurements and fitments and testing were done based on that car, my car, which I bought in high school and drove across the country and took fairly good care of. And then I forgot that everything hinged on it and was custom made for it. And then I sold it to a teenager who's probably just now realizing the cruise control doesn't work, which overall sucks because everything really only fit this car, which I don't have anymore. So I had to get a replacement, and by get, I mean rent. This is a rental car from a rental company who will not be named for plausible deniability. But I want to stress that we did everything by the book here. Sure, I didn't tell them everything I was going to do with the car, but technically, you don't have to. And don't worry, we took all necessary precautions to make sure everything was done as safely as possible. Mainly, we got the premium insurance. Now, best case scenario, I gave them $80 for nothing, and worst case scenario, I gave them $80 to return a Korean sports car with a big hole in it. And at the end of the day, an insurance company's paying for everything. Isn't capitalism great? But now that we've got everything in place, it's time to launch! This was $30. After weeks of planning and ideation, as well as educated input designing and actually building the thing by this guy,
That's stupid.
we were ready to launch. All we had to do was bolt on our hub and screw Sonic on, and then nothing could stand in our way.
Wait, okay, my arm is in the way. Just stop.
But just like any scientific thing to be widely broadcast, we discovered one safety clearance we might have overlooked a little too close to launch.
So, no, straight on this way.
Oh. We can turn it a little bit.
Is that better?
No.
So just for context, this is the amount of mistake room we have. If it goes 1 inch this way, the front of the car is coming off. I seem happy. I'm not. And I wasn't. But luckily, it was time to prep our first target anyway. Good thing I've got world-class help on this shoot to carry us to a...
God. All right, we need an intermediate drill.
Who knew the cheapest drill from Home Depot isn't good?
And I'm sure you're asking, why have the first target be a giant TV? Well, as I long-windedly explained right here, we needed 3 items to hit, and I had one. But also some actually good reasons. Up first, this giant TV. My old giant TV, actually. Not only is it a perfect rendition of the 16-bit item boxes that you hit in the actual first Sonic game, it's also huge. It's wide and broad and easy to hit because, as I said, I have no idea how accurate this is going to be. So, let's start with something good, shall we?
Every time we do something like this, there's like a moment when it becomes real. It has become real. And I don't know what would make it better. Like, if it was my car, I wouldn't want to do this. But the fact that I've rented this means there's a very uncomfortable conversation that might need to be had. Fuck. All right. 3, 2, 1. Spin it up. Oh my God. Holy shit. Oh my God, we have to pick that up.
So I didn't record that. I'm joking.
Fuck you, Mayron. That literally could not have gone better. It just fucking, it did not care. There's like a big sheet of metal behind this and just fucking blasted right through it. So just so you understand sorry, I'm just looking at this ant. Do you see this ant, Mayron? How did you live, buddy? So, sorry, just so you understand the power of the blade, this dug maybe a 2 to 3 inch hole in the ground, like nothing, and then continued to spin. I'm kind of scared to see what it does next. Okay, so now we know that this thing works. The question is, what else do we blow up with it? Well, in the game, he hits a lot of enemies. The enemies are robots, usually of like forest animals and stuff. And we could build a robot just to throw a saw blade through it, but that seems like a lot of work for nothing. So we have the next best thing. Sure, it may look like a fridge until this is a little bit thinner, so the odds that we hit it on the first try are slim, but I'm excited for what happens. Let's go. It's nerve-wracking every time. Just because it worked once doesn't mean it's not gonna fuck up the next time. Okay.
I believe in your stuff, Joe.
That makes one of us.
Yeah, I'll save you some tension here. This one didn't work, and in a way that's less catastrophic and more annoying. We missed.
So, the next worst thing after destroying the car is it missing, and it missed. So now we have to roll it back over here. Not psyched about it. So yeah, we moved it over about 3 inches to the right, which means that scientifically, it's gonna miss 3 inches to the left.
Yeah, it didn't.
Holy shit.
Does it look kind of bent now?
Yeah, sure it is. Yeah, it does.
Oh yeah.
Buff that out. I'm sure it still works. Who wants a broski? They're cold.
And as funny of a sound as that made when I opened it up, I wasn't 100% happy with the result.
Yeah, ultimately, I don't think I'm 100% happy with how that one turned out. It hit like a crossbar, so it didn't. It's got to go through the thing, right?
What a setup. Unfortunately, before we fix that, there's still one last target.
I think there's like a big contingency of like Tumblr and certain pockets of DeviantArt that would love to see Dr. Robotnik crucified. And finally, we're making it happen. I don't think you're allowed to talk about Sonic fan fiction holding a shotgun. We've transported the one and only Dr. Robotnik to the desert to be hit by our saw blade. Now, I understand that he's usually in some sort of giant robot thing that you have to destroy, but I would posit that this is actually a harder final target because he's smaller and therefore harder to hit. But I understand the ideology of heightening when it comes to a YouTube video, so the third thing should probably be the most exciting, which is why I've loaded Dr. Robotnik's fupa up with 2 cans of explosive aerosol liquid. This is highly flammable when it's let out of the can and allowed to mix with air, which is why it would be really irresponsible to put something like an open flame next to him. Duct tape, please. Ow! Well, that's gonna get cut out.
It didn't. And that's because I wanted to show how stupid this is. Not because it might explode, but because...
Hey, did you know this is hot as shit?
No, apparently. And now we can all enjoy me burning the hair off my forearms because, as I learned, lit road flares almost constantly spray molten metal all over the place. Even worse, I'm a real baby about it.
Oh. Ow.
But enough about that. There's a lit road flare next to some flammable gas in my hands, so it's almost the part where we run.
This is the part where we run. Yo, Joe, that was a little bit too tall.
Yes. Yes, it was too tall. And really, really not ideal for reasons I didn't immediately notice.
Well, that's not good.
You gotta get the flare out of his hand.
Yeah, now we
Go
just.
for it.
What do you mean?
Get the flare out of his hand because we gotta reset. Yeah.
How well it's actually staying.
Yeah, apparently you can't just leave an open flame next to explosive canisters. Who knew? I don't know what the safe way to do this was, but whatever it is, my stance was on point.
This sucks. You know, it's much harder to go get the blade when you know that you're not gonna hit it again. Like, it just seems so futile to go pick this thing up, screw it back on, launch it again. There's no way we're gonna fucking hit this thing.
Obviously, I was getting a little tired at this point, but in reality, it was just the start of something really, really not fun. A vicious cycle of launching, missing, having to go find the blade, then pick it up, then drive it back, then roll it over, then screw it on, then light my forearm on fire, ow, then miss again, then go get it again, then cut our fingers a bunch, then miss again. It was getting a little discouraging until something worse happened. Not that. It's that we hit it. Yep, after countless tries, we managed to line up a shot so perfect, it went right through his legs, just barely grazing his thigh. And it popped his head off too. It wasn't really what we were going for, and after chasing a 150-pound frisbee around the desert floor all day, we realized we might have made a mistake conceptually. Sure, we took all of the measurements and speeds and metrics directly from the game and saw just how dangerous it would be if applied in real life. But in focusing on those specifics, we really only proved just how impractical Sonic's powers would be in real life. And in addition to that farting in the face of our original theory, it also kind of lost the spirit of what Sonic is, which is fast. Which brings me to our plan B, which stands for ball. Bowling ball. Let's call this new safer approach Knuckles. That shrinks our character stand-in way down, makes him way too heavy for his size, and speeds him up to over 10 times his actual speed. In reality, yes, it is just a cannon made from scrap metal that uses black powder to delete anything in its path, guaranteed. We got tired of waiting. Is it accurate to the game? No, but is it more accurate to the destruction we see in the game? I'd argue yes. What's that? You'd like some science on how it works? Okay.
So how much black powder does this use?
A cup.
Huh.
That's all I'd like to explain. Now, all it's left to do is reset our Robotnik stand-in and then cut our cameraman Mayron off mid-sentence.
I have a...
Holy shit.
And there you go. What Sonic Spin Dash Attack would be like in real life and what it probably should be if you want to match what we see in the game. I think. I'm not really sure. I'm just glad we got to blow stuff up, and I'm glad I got to make something fun with my friends and my brother, which is the real win for all of this. But on that note, I think that's it for the video, finally. I have something else in the works, so I will see you soon. Ish. These things take a long time to make, so let's call it soonish. Bye.
Have mercy.
Oh, you know what? I almost forgot. We also shot the fridge. I was mad the blade didn't go through the first time, so. Wow, really fun. until you realize that we also put the explosive gas and the flare in that one to try and blow it up, but it didn't blow up. And then we forgot that the flare might still be burning while we were cleaning everything up. And unrelated, did you guys know fridges are super flammable inside? And we didn't have a fire extinguisher for some reason.
Man, this is really on fire. I don't know what our fucking third is gonna do.